2017, presented by SportsbookReview.com. It is the show we've been waiting for. Why is that, folks? We are right in the middle of MACtion throughout the season. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday coming directly to you live. And as you know, it's Tuesday night. My partner in crime is going to join us in just a few moments. The big man on campus. As always on Tuesdays, we go over a 5-pack of NCAA football action. Sort of pique your interest, maybe point you in the right direction. Take a look at some early line movement. Always one of my favorite shows here. Got a lot to talk about tonight. As I just stated before, 2 games tonight in the MAC. Tonight, 3 games in the MAC on a Wednesday night. It's football season. I don't even want to say it's winding down because it sort of brings a little bit of a tear to my eye. We're at least halfway through, obviously, through the NFL season, a little bit more than halfway through the college football season. Still have the bowls and the championship rounds to come up, so a lot more football to digest. But welcome into the show, everybody. If you're out there, check out SBRodds.com. Find out where that late line movement's going, as in that Miami of Ohio Akron game, moving all over the board. A free service. Use it to your advantage. Also, follow us on Twitter at SBR Sports Picks. Give us a follow on that. Go back and forth. Always great contests that we're giving out there. Love the interaction back and forth. And also, obviously, if you're watching here on YouTube and you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel here at SBR, please do so. Get those notifications right there. So when me and the big man on campus go live tonight, like we're about to do, or as we are live right now, you get that alert. You can jump right in that live chat box and we can have a lot of fun. Also, if you're looking to get down a little bit of action on these 2 MACtion games tonight, no better place to go than SportsbookReview.com. What you can do there, go through each and every sportsbook, find the best bonuses that fit you out, who's paying out the fastest, A-level sportsbooks, B-level sportsbooks, anything you want in the offshore community, it's there for you to win some money. That's what we do here at SportsbookReview.com. Once again, folks, welcome to the show. I'm going to bring in and waste no more time. It's Tuesday night. It's time to get busy. It's time to pick some winners. Let's welcome in the big man on campus, Jeff Nadeau. Give him a follow on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. You see him each and every day with me on the right side of campus. Jeff does a ton of stuff around the channel. Jeff, welcome in to the closing line tonight, buddy.
Hey, Donnie, how are you today?
Look at you, maybe you subdued, Jeff. Come on, like I'm trying to pump the volume up here. Why are you so subdued over there?
Yeah, no, I'm good to go. I was just saying hello. No, Donnie, before we get into the show tonight, I do want to shout. Um, you know, I know you're a big Phillies fan. I know, we're connected to Philadelphia. We've lived here our whole lives. I was a big Roy Halladay fan. I know you were as well. Whether it was in Toronto or it was in Philadelphia, his passing is pretty sad to me. I mean, obviously every passing is, but I mean, what a tremendous athlete! What a tremendous, really just going from the small levels of baseball. Kind of getting, being said, hey, you're not good enough. You got to go retool your game. Coming back, becoming one of the better pitchers we've ever seen in the last 10, 15 years. Just a terrible news today hearing about Roy Halladay.
No, it is awful. It's one, I mean, tragedies happen, people pass away, oh my God, how bad it's 2017 with all the, the music people, the movie people, whoever gets taken away from you. But this is one of those that comes way too early. 40-year-old Roy Halladay hits home because I was born in 1977, and you see the little, moniker there when they say, God bless Roy Halladay, or we're saddened that he's passing 1977 to 2017. It really hits home how precious life is. And I don't know, I mean, there's very few people in the world where when somebody passes away, nobody had anything negative to say about Roy Halladay. One of the greatest pitchers I've ever watched. Enjoyed, I mean, a great human being overall that you could root for, regardless if you even like Toronto, if you even like the Philadelphia Phillies. Complete class act all the way. And the minute that news came down, you sort of had that little sinking feeling in your stomach. And very few people can do that to you when you're a sport. What a shame this guy, but way too early before his time. Great, great human being, Roy Halladay. So I echo those sentiments from you, big man.
Yeah, it's you hear all the time about how, I remember, being here, we saw him interviewed so many times, he seemed like such a nice person, a nice family man. He had 2 young sons, and, he's, really just in this point of his life where he's trying to move on from baseball, and having just a regular life again. He found a hobby that he enjoyed, and what a terrible piece of news. A great guy seemingly, and I always remember that no hitter he threw against the Reds. The perfect game against the Marlins. Truly a great. During those wonder years for the Phillies. In the 09s and kind of that era. Just a great guy. It's a shame. Rest in peace to him.
No, you're right. Yeah, it's really it's you feel for the family. Had 2 boys. Obviously leaves alone the wife. It's one of those things where it's tough. I mean, hey, he had a passion for being a pilot. They said they interviewed him previously, like throughout his baseball career. Hey, if you weren't playing baseball, what would you do? Boy, I really want to be a pilot. Finally had that extra time, and
Sure.
sometimes you just unforeseen characteristics, unforeseen things happen there. And the one thing you can take solace in, if there's anything, it's very few people. You die doing what you love. And obviously, he had a passion for aircraft and, flying and doing all that stuff. I believe they have over 800 hours or 1,000 hours. It wasn't like this guy just got up there willy-nilly and was just like, hey, I lost control of my plane. I mean, he was a pretty seasoned pilot from what I've been reading about. Just a shame, though.
He
Just an
was
absolute shame, man.
he was such a horse, man. I mean, he was such a great pitcher. I mean, I always remember, in Philadelphia, Anthony Gargano always called him a horse, and I always remember that. He truly was. I mean, Donnie, he had 67 complete games in his career. 67 active leader. What an amazing career.
Yeah, now you just try to get guys to get through the fifth inning now, and it's a huge miracle.
Sure.
Like, what a great
It's a
performance. He
lost
went
art,
five and
man.
two-thirds. It really is a
Yeah.
lost start. No,
Lost
he would
art.
complete right up to the end when he didn't even have anymore and still went out there and tried to gut it out, retired, and just, in Philly lore. We didn't even get to the shame of it all is we weren't able to get Roy a World Series. We had the team that won it
Donnie,
in '08. He comes over, couldn't even get it for him.
it's amazing because I don't think a lot of people know he was, like I said, demoted to single A because they said he wasn't, let alone, necessarily good enough to pitch at the level. He worked himself back into the big leagues, kind of, I heard a story today that somebody told, that I think it was Ryan Dempster, that he would literally go into the manager's office and say, when can I pitch against the Yankees, or can you try to fit me in to pitch against this team? He was a gamer, and I also heard of, he would just seemingly go right at you, Donnie, when he was pitching against you. He was never worried about, you hitting him. Just go right at him. I don't care who they are. He'll be missed. Rest in peace to Roy.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, it'll be tough, and you'll see a lot of the stuff. You already saw it if you're bouncing on Twitter. Every single athlete from just about every sport here just tweeting back and forth at organizations. Very rare, Jeff, that something like this happens. And even in Philadelphia, where you tend to rally around it. You saw the Eagles put something out, the Sixers put something out. Obviously, the Phillies put something out as well. But just one of those guys that just won over the heart of a town right away and rode off into the sunset. Couldn't get him the World Series, but a great guy. Was always around the Philadelphia Phillies, always willing to help out. So what a shame that was. That is it there. So.
Amen.
Amen. Well, now we'll get back to some brighter pastures, so to speak here, Jeff. We are a gambling institution here. We like to pick games. We like to go back and forth on a couple stuff, Jeff. Let's take a look tonight. We got some action out there. 2 games, 101, 102, 103, 104 in the rotation. Interesting line movement, Jeff. Akron and Miami of Ohio opened up Pinnacle 5.5 early in the week. Chris opened up at 4. That line ballooned all the way up, Jeff, about an hour ago to 9.5. But it looks like there's some buyback out there now. Chris sitting at 8. CG Technologies at minus 8.5. Bet online 8. Over under, pretty similar here. Opened up at 50, 49.5, but that's always going to grow. Typically with a MAC game when you're putting something in that range. So 49.5 up to 54.5, 54.5 CG Technology. Pretty much 54, 54.5 depending on where you're shopping at there, Jeff. What are we looking at here from an aspect with Akron and Miami of Ohio tonight?
It seemed like, Donnie, some huge bets came in on Miami of Ohio to get the number off of 7. Maybe you got it to where they wanted it. Bet Akron, and now it's back down to where it is, or it's just that steam, or I don't know what it is here. But Ragland, I imagine, is going to play in this game tonight. And that's huge for Miami of Ohio, getting him back, because we've talked about, Donnie, Miami of Ohio. I don't mind Billy Ball. I think he's a decent quarterback, but he just makes too many mistakes with the football. He turns the ball over too much, and that was evidence last week in that game against Ohio. But Akron, Donnie, you and I talked about, they're just a team that, for me, I don't really want to lay points against. They're a pretty decent offense. They don't really do much well, but they convert third downs. They're decent with moving the football, and they win a lot of close games. They're not a team that necessarily gets blown out very often, but it is concerning. I mean, both these teams really need this game. I mean, both teams, Akron, for as kind of averages they played this year, they're right up at the top of the MAC, Donnie. And a loss here would definitely hurt, because Toledo and Ohio and the other teams in this conference are really doing some good things. You look at Miami of Ohio, they, after a tough start, are 3 wins away from a bowl game. So there's only 3 or 4 games left. So they really have to, kind of come out here with, the same, thoughts of going and winning this game. And they're at home. They've had some tough performances this year. I just see this game as being pretty close, overall. And you and I always have a pretty good read on the MAC. for me, I would lean with the points. I mentioned that earlier today. Whether it was 7, 8, wherever it is, I think getting a touchdown with Akron is, I'll kind of hold my nose. I don't love their pass defense, but I just think this is a close football game either way.
Yeah, you know what's wild about this, Jeff? When you take a look at both of these teams on the season, just dating back, getting back into conference play for them, their last 5 games apiece. Akron coming into this game, winners of 4 or 5 straight up and winners of 4 or 5 ATS. Now you go back to Miami of Ohio, the complete opposite here, Jeff. You have 4 out of 5 losers, and all of those against the spread, 4 out of 5. So almost a complete mirror image. Then you're saying, wait a second, why was this line open up 4 and now dipping up to 9, 9.5? Well, I mean, it is about the quarterback play, and you're going to get that with Gus Ragland tonight. The only question that I've had all throughout the day, going back and forth, is what Gus Ragland are we going to get, Jeff? We're going to get the guy that's going to sit in the pocket and deliver, because they have a good wide receiver out there for Miami of Ohio. They also have 2 really good running backs. The one interesting thing about this game overall that I would say, if you're interested in betting a total, Jeff, 2 of these teams right here, Akron and Miami of Ohio, very deliberate football teams for a MAC type of offense. What I mean by that is you're watching it. Sheriff Woody, I like to call him the quarterback for Akron, very mobile, not fast, not a great arm, not going to throw a ton of deep shots. They're more of that, I'm going to make a play on like 3rd and 5 with my feet, maybe roll out of the pocket and throw for a first down. They don't have a lot of home run hitters. And the same thing can be said about Miami of Ohio. They do have a very good wide receiver, and Ragland's going to be able to deliver the football, but they're going to keep it on the ground. And both of these teams aren't technically sieves on defense. Miami of Ohio, to me, Jeff, should have had a lot better defense here, but finally getting a little bit healthier for Chuck Martin as they head down the stretch in the MAC. But also Akron does play some decent defense. So if you're looking to bet an under in this one, which, you bet 52, 54, Jeff, in the MAC, sometimes it just doesn't compute in your mind that it makes sense. But both of these teams are pretty deliberate here, not looking to be a super up-tempo team like you would see maybe a Bowling Green, or just getting into a up-tempo type race where it's a complete aerial show. I see this game playing a little bit slower. Do I like the over-under? I mean, I don't like anything in that range, but I'm actually leaning more towards Miami of Ohio, even at -8 right now. It just makes sense to me. I think Miami of Ohio, with their quarterback, going to get a little bit of a shot in the arm tonight. And overall, I do think they're a better football team than Akron is.
Donnie's throwing a little wrench here, because at 12:30 he was telling me he liked Akron. Now he likes Miami. What is it, Donnie? What has changed for you here? But no, I'm only kidding. You can make a change. I do want to point out your under talk, Donnie. Akron's 8-1 to the under this year. Pretty interesting. They're also 23-10 to the under, over the last 33 games. So, with this, Tommy Woodson and this offense, you're right. They're not deliberate. That's an interesting way of putting it. The total's tough. I think it hangs right around that amount. I could see it under. I could see it just getting up and over. But I just think this is too many points. I think it's a closer game. Maybe like a 28-24 type of game, 28-21, something like that. I just see it. I see it Akron for me.
Yeah, I mentioned, and also, we always, since we're always talking about betting and, going back and forth, what's going to get you overall the best, profit here. How about Ragland, Jeff? What have I been saying all day, same as you? Like, he's coming back injured. What do you want to do with this football game? Because if you watched last week with Buffalo, which I advised, take a sit-back approach with Tyree Jackson coming back after a long layoff. When you saw he was a little bit rusty, maybe you can get a better number in this game. Same thing with this one. If Ragland comes out, Jeff, first drive, and you can see him moving around and delivering the football well, you might want to get in live and say, I like Miami of Ohio here. But the same thing, where if you get that little vibe saying, hey, look, he's dinged up here. We don't want to get him outside the pocket, and we're going to keep him in the pocket. You could tell that right away from how rusty or what the game plan is going to be. It might be one that you want to sit out maybe throughout the first quarter, maybe midway through the first quarter if you get a good feel. But the line's gone for it. I mean, that's probably what we're trying to say here, Jeff. 5.5 forward opens up, crosses that 7 number. I'm still going to lean Miami of Ohio. As I looked at it throughout the day, I think Miami of Ohio is the better football team, and Ragland's going to be that shot in the arm. I think they can get the cover tonight here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it's an interesting game to watch. Interesting handicap. Both teams really need the game, so it should be a battle.
Yeah, and with the MAC, I love the MAC going over it, but some games, Jeff, that we talk about, there's not a real decided advantage. We can say, yes, I can absolutely peg that, because the MAC is more wide open, more crazy bounces, third string, fourth. I think this is a conference, Jeff, where I've seen more fourth string quarterbacks play than I've ever seen in any conference in history. You never even know who's going to come in the football game. Tomorrow, betting wise, Jeff, you think you'll probably agree with me. The 3 games tomorrow are much, much better than the 2 games tonight. But let's move on here. 103, 104, Bowling Green and Buffalo. Interesting game here. About 7,200 tickets have been tracked offshore. 50-50 split, Jeff. in these tickets, which is always interesting. Line opened up pretty steep here. -11 at Pinnacle, Jeff. -11.5 at Chris. Now we're sitting in that range of 7.5 to 8 points. I don't see any touchdown favorites out there, so it looks like you're going to be buying that up at 7.5, 8 at CG Technologies, 8 at Bet Online as well. Over/under sitting at 60, 61, depending on where you're shopping at. What are you looking at, Jeff, from your angle here?
Yeah, I actually, in this game, I like Buffalo the most out of both these games. I like them a lot more than the other game. I just don't really against teams that are better than them. Bowling Green, I'm just not really too interested in. I don't think they're very good, and they don't do well as an underdog. They normally get blown out, Donnie, in games. You look at all their teams, games against teams better than them. I mean, there are very few that haven't been blowouts. I mean, they just don't really hang in games very often, especially lately. And Donnie, I want to shout out to Lance Leopold. I mean, he's done a pretty good job with this team. I mean, they've had all sorts of quarterback issues. They finally get their quarterback back, and Donnie, they're 3-6. They need 3 wins, and they get Bowling Green and Ball State coming up here. So a bowl game is very much in their sights. At this time of the year, it's really important when a team like a Buffalo plays to know where they are in that bowl setup. I mean, they really would love to get back to a bowl. That's a tough place to play, Buffalo. It's not easy to go in there. It's cold. And, Donnie, you look at Bowling Green, they're just so dreadful defensively. I mean, Buffalo's about a 10-point better defensive team than they are. They're just a way better team to me. Bowling Green's 123rd in the country in total defense, giving up almost 500 yards a game. For me, it's really tough to get involved with a team like that. I just think with Tyree Jackson back, I have to go. I have to get on Buffalo. I think they win this game 38-17, something like that. I think they pull away in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, let's take a look when they were completely healthy, right? The Buffalo Bulls. They lost Hawkins for the year, which was their starting tailback, who's a really, really good football player to a shoulder injury. He should be returning back next year. But you open up against Minnesota, no harm, no foul, Jeff. Getting 21.5 points, 17-7 on the road. You play Army till basically a standstill, getting 16 points. You lose that 21-17. You beat Colgate. You have maybe your win of the year versus Florida Atlantic, which I was on that football game with Buffalo. And keep in mind, that's a game at the half. You lost your starting quarterback and had to go to Anderson, who was really good in the second half. You held on for a 34-31 win, but you were up in that game 34-24 late. So that's sort of a junk touchdown at the end to draw that a little bit closer. You end up beating Kent State. Western Michigan, a 71-68 game that you lost at home, which is just a battle back and forth. And keep in mind, Jeff, that was a Western Michigan thing with Bogan, Bellamy, and also Franklin all available in that game, and also Wasink at quarterback. That was a full-go Western Michigan team that you took into like 5 overtimes and end up losing. The following week, Jeff, with your backup quarterback, no shame in this one, a 14-13 loss to NIU. Then you go on the road after losing your quarterback, Drew Anderson. Now you're down to your third-string quarterback on the road. You go and get beat 24-14 from Miami of Ohio. And then you have the game last week where you get on the road, you get your quarterback back. You blew a late lead, and you go down 21-20. So Buffalo, you're right, is a pretty good football team from overall perspective.
And that game was very tight. I mean, they missed a field goal late in that game. 46-yard field goal with about 2 minutes to go. So they were right there in that game. It could, Donnie, unfortunately for this club, really come and be the dagger in their bowl hopes, because I have a weird feeling they're going to be 5-7, Donnie, because they play Ohio in the last game of the year. I don't know that they'll win that game. I just don't. They could, but one of those tough luck losses, Donnie, really could be. They've been so close, and they're really a team that I think long term, maybe in the next year, you want to look at, because they had so many close losses. They teach kids. That'll teach kids, but I have a weird feeling they're going to come up short. But they're going to play real hard tonight. I think they come out, and I think they really take it to a Bowling Green team that's just not very good.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, Jeff, with Bowling Green? I really like the way they're playing football. We talk about Daggy coming back as being their quarterback. He's clearly the best option over Morgan. They have 2 really good running backs out there with Claire and Cleveland. Now, I like to preface that because also you're looking at Teal Redding on the outside, and Scott Miller is like a super speedy, Wooderbug Wes Welker out there. They have all the weapons you need. But here's the problem that's going to be in tonight, Jeff. You're going to have a starting left tackle and a starting right tackle. They're both healthy at the moment right here. You have a guard that's going to be out on the left side, a guard that's going to be out on the right side, and your best overall lineman, which is your center, he's not playing tonight. Also, your best backup left guard is also out for this football game. The one thing I worry about, Jeff, is when you're already down. And when we talked about this, Jeff, every time we come on a show, I like to always joke about the MACtion. All right, let me get this straight here. You're going to start your third string quarterback in this game, and everybody runs the read option, has a mobile pocket. What happens when he goes down, and now you're down to your fourth string quarterback? Well, let's take a look at Bowling Green tonight. Let's just say their left tackle goes down. Are you bringing in a freshman who hasn't played yet this season, and you're just trying to get him ready, and now you have no linemen there? In order for an offense to move at a nice clip, you have a good quarterback, you have two good running backs, and two good wide receivers. Jeff, it doesn't matter if you're just heating up the pocket every single play because all of your linemen are out. If Bowling Green came into this game, Jeff, completely healthy on that offensive line, it's a no-brainer to take the 7 or 7+ or 8, whatever you're going to be getting this football game out. But the fact that Bowling Green is so injured on the front line, do I still think they can score? Yes. They go 100 miles an hour. They do have some weapons. And again, we're not talking about, Jeff, going against an Alabama defense that can really expose that front line. It's Buffalo. They're pretty good on defense at this point. But how much pressure can they put on the pocket? I think they can do just enough to offset it tonight. In Bowling Green games, Jeff, Bowling Green and under just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't go together. It's like oil and water. So I would lean towards taking the over, but I'm actually going to lean a little bit on Buffalo in this football game. I think they have enough read option-wise. Tyree Jackson's back. Maybe got that game out of the way. It was freezing cold in Akron and rainy. Now he's going back home. And it's not going to be sunny out there, but, it's not going to be 20 degrees and 50-mile-an-hour winds with snow. I think he'll do enough in this game to keep the chains moving, and I think Buffalo overall is the better team, Jeff.
They're significantly better, Donnie, also defensively than Bowling Green. I mean, Bowling Green is truly in the bottom 5 in the country on defense. Buffalo 75th in total. They're not bad. I mean, they're average, and they're about 10 points better, like I said, as far as giving points up. Bowling Green that's really always been their issue. I mean, the problem is back when they had Dino Babers, they could just outscore everybody. They can't do that now. So, yeah, I like Buffalo. Definitely my favorite game of the two.
Yeah, I mean, if you even scroll back, I mean, Akron, Jeff, with Ball currently out of the lineup, if you're scrolling, back with Bowling Green games, 178 on the ground to Akron, who's not a great rushing team. Miami of Ohio, we've all known their struggles here. They ran for 238 in that game, and also Bowling Green gave up 307. Look at that, Jeff. I don't even know. I don't think Ragland was even in that football game. 238 in the air. 238 in the ground, 374 in the air. Ohio University, we all know they're a powerful ground game, 335 on the ground. Northern Illinois, 338 on the ground. And even Jeff, Kent State, we laugh at Kent State, right, on offense. Even Kent State was able to get 144 yards on the ground versus Bowling Green. Now you're going to come in with a team that knows how to run the football and has a running quarterback. That's going to be tough on them. So even looking at this game more and more, Jeff, I mean, even going with the side, where they're going to pay over a touchdown this one, 60's not a bad option. 60 and a half, somewhere in that range. Probably would lean on that as maybe even being a better side to me, Jeff, than the actual game itself.
I mean, when does Buffalo get up there? I know they did against Western Michigan, but you look at all their games virtually. I mean, 24-14, 14-13, 21-20, 27-13, 33-10. The only concern is, Donnie, you look at the...
Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the only concern is you look at the games where they did score a lot of points, Florida Atlantic and Western Michigan, two teams that are kind of up-tempo. But, Donnie, you mentioned it. Bowling Green, they could get really shut down in this game. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, at the end of the day, Bowling Green is pretty bad on offense. I mean, they're only averaging about 23 points a game. This is not the Matt Johnson and the Roger Lewis groups. I mean, this is a team that has had struggles at quarterback. They benched their quarterback. You mentioned their offensive line problems. I don't think this game is close. I really don't. I would be surprised if this is not a double-digit victory for Buffalo.
Yeah, if I had to go both sides on this one for me, Jeff, I would lean over and I would lean Buffalo as well. I'm not in love with both of these games, but I think there is an advantage with taking Buffalo at home. And again, it all's based off of if Jackson, like we saw him all last year. I mean, it's funny. He's like the Cam Newton of the MAC. Big kid when you see him tonight, like 6'5", really mobile kid, strong arm. If he's hitting on all cylinders, they also have a really good wide receiver, an NFL caliber wide receiver on Buffalo. So they have everything you need, a really good coach, a really good game plan. And the one thing that you like, Jeff, give me the mashers up front to go against Bowling Green. If you're going to run read option, have a good game with Reed as your starting tailback, you should be able to move the football fairly easy against Bowling Green. It might be one of those games, Jeff, where you watch in the first quarter, it's like, what the hell is Donnie talking about? Buffalo just went 3 and out for the first 2 series. Let that defense get wore out as the game goes on. Keep pounding it away. Buffalo will be okay in this game. I would lean towards Buffalo in the over here for us if we're going to take a play.
Yeah, I actually definitely I'm definitely interested as well. Donnie, before we get into the five pack, I do want to mention an NBA game tonight.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
don't
Sure.
bet it. Yeah, I don't really I'm not one of these people that bets the whole card in the NBA. I'm just trying to find a game or two that kind of fits what I look for. And I was talking with one of our listeners last night. I talked to him on the phone. We talked for a while about just some different things. And he's a Portland Trailblazer fan. And I wanted just to discuss with the listeners how good this Portland team, Donnie, has become defensively. And you look at tonight, the matchup against the Memphis Grizzlies. You look at overall, Donnie, these two teams, other than the Celtics, they are the two best teams in the Western Conference as far as defensive rating. They have been fantastic, both these teams. And you look at Portland, I mean, how kind of better they've become defensively. A lot of it has to do with the rebounding that they've done. But I mean, I remember early in the season, a lot of this team was really up toward the top of the defensive rating categories for players as far as individually. I really like what I've seen from this Portland team. I think they're a team that definitely people should start getting into getting understanding. I mean, Lillard's a superstar. They've had some good contributions from random guys. I mean, Pat Connaughton's had a really good year. It's a shame right now Elfruk Aminu is out, which is kind of hurt. It kind of hurts, but the addition of Nurkic is great. I think this is going to be a real brawly type of game. Not a ton of baskets, kind of game played in the 90s. I'm going to be interested to look maybe at a total and an under maybe, but there's not a lot of huge bet games tonight. Not a lot of weird false flags, as you would say. But I am really interested in kind of getting to know this Portland defense. The concern with me in this game is the markets have somewhat agreed. I mean, this total opened 204, it's down to 201. So, it's just something I've looked at, but I definitely want to let everyone know Portland for me is definitely a bet on team.
How about you? Yeah, Jeff, I'm looking at the odds and statistics up here. 72% of the spread wagers coming in on the Cleveland Cavaliers with 83% of the money. Line opened up at 4. Pinnacle now sitting at 4.5. Bet on line 4.5 as well. Not a lot of movement. Looks like everybody's loading up for bear on the Cleveland
And
Cavaliers tonight, Jeff.
which is surprising to me, Donnie. Honestly, the public is a fickle group. They love the Cavs. We know that, but I mean, the public better is the person that watches ESPN and sees kind of all the issues right now with the Cavs. I mean, they've been overly disappointing to start the season, and with how good Giannis has been, how good most people think that the Bucks are. I thought this would be more of a Bucks play, but I'm surprised. It seems like that there's nothing Cleveland can do to make bettors not take them. I kind of want to take the Bucks just because there's been little to no movement on this game. The concern for me and what I look for is I would be more interested if this game just sat at 4, maybe creep to 3.5. I'd be all over the Bucks, and that's exactly why I took the Atlanta Hawks last night. That was a eyesore last night. The whole world loves the Celtics. They're the best team defensively. They're 9-1 against the spread, and the lowly Hawks are getting 8 points at home. There's an interesting card in the NBA tonight, but I thought the Bucks would be more of a public side, but public loves Cleveland.
They don't love Giannis, Jeff, now that he signed his new Nike deal. Maybe they're figuring he's just going to be popping bottles tonight.
I love him. I don't know if everyone else does, but bettors don't seem to like him, but I do.
No, it should be. It'll be interesting. I know the Sixers playing tonight. Everybody's all up in arms again about Joel Embiid's, going to take one of those rest and recovery days.
I think.
I don't think the Sixers have played in 3 to 4 days.
And the interesting thing also, Donnie, you get no Embiid tonight. This is a really good defensive team, the Jazz. They're off of bad performance. They give up a lot of points to the Rockets over the weekend. The whole world's on the Sixers, Donnie. However, the line has went into the favor of the Jazz. For me, if I had to pick a game tonight in the NBA, I would be on the Jazz.
Interesting. All right, good. We'll leave it on the hardwood there for us, Jeff. Not much room for the NHL on this show because I wouldn't want to get out there and just give out false and misleading false flag information on the ice. So we'll leave it at that, Jeff, and we're going to get right to our 5-pack in NCAA football here. 5 games that we picked out mostly by the listeners here. Yeah, exactly. Ty Domi's out there, maybe a little Eric Lindros, John LeClaire, Michael Renberg. If they're still around, I'd be more than happy to cap. Yeah, exactly. John Stevens is the head coach, maybe a little Lavi as the head coach. Put a little jam in it out there, boys. But no, we'll leave a little bit of a hockey there, Jeff. We're going to start with a 5-pack here, Jeff. First game we're going to take a look at here is Friday night, 121-122. The Washington Huskies go on the road to play the Stanford Cardinal. Early betting here, 71%, Jeff, lining up on the Washington Huskies. Line opened up at a touchdown, but here we got some movement. Bet online showing -5.5 at this point. And it's interesting seeing a Washington total now that they're strictly a damn good defense. And we know that Stanford wants to run the football 50 as an over-under in this one, Jeff. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, this is an interesting line move. I mean, open 7, you mentioned it goes down, a lot of the money coming in on Washington. But as you know, Donnie, I'm not as big into the public sharp money in college as I am with pro sports. But I have a hard time taking Stanford in this spot. I know they're at home. This is usually a spot where they flourish in, and they've played very well, Donnie. I mean, Stanford has been largely not talked about, but the truth of the matter is they have a Heisman Trophy finalist. The quarterback play has been pretty good. They have a great coach, yet we're not talking about them. They're second in the conference. They've been very good overall. They did have that stinker against Oregon State, but and then they lost last week, and that's the concern for me. That's the big key in on this game, Donnie. Look at last week. They lost Elijah Holder, one of their better cornerbacks. They then proceeded to give up 337 passing yards to Washington State, which is very concerning. And Donnie, I want to ask you: do you happen to know who the number one total defense in America is? Do you know who it is?
Might be why. Is it Washington?
The Washington Huskies. And
Yeah.
people won't talk about it, but I think it's one of the more fascinating things in college football this year is how this defense, who lost so much last year, and they're still the number one total defense in the country, above Alabama, above Georgia, above Michigan, above everybody. It's Washington. Chris Peterson, what a job he's done. It's really such a shame they lost to Arizona State because they're a real wild card to me if they could somehow get into the title, the top 4. I think they're going to do a number this week on Bryce Love. This is an elite rush defense. They're giving up 2.58 yards a carry. And Donnie, they've only allowed 3 rushing touchdowns this year. 3 all year. Amazing stuff. I also think they should have a big day on the offensive side of the ball. Jake Browning, a good quarterback. He should be able to attack a defense that's a little broken in the back end. I mentioned the Holder injury. And Donnie, I mean, it's surprising to know just because of last year they had Solomon Thomas and they were overall a pretty good rush defense. Not this year. They've struggled against the run pretty significantly for the most part. They've gotten better lately, but they're 82nd, giving up almost 5 yards a carry. I think Washington has to be the play here. They really have no room for error, Washington. If they want to somehow try to do something in the late season here, got to go on and win games like this. I think they pound them just like they did last year.
Yeah, I mean, look at the games. The past 5 games at Oregon State, 42-7 winner versus California, 38-7 winner. They gave up 13 points in a loss to Arizona State. UCLA in a blowout game where UCLA was able to tack on a touchdown late in that one to make it 44-23. And then you blast Oregon 38-3. And that's no joke on defense, Jeff. No joke at all.
No, I mean, they lost Buda Baker, Sidney Jones, and Kevin King, and they're still super elite defensively. Just amazing job by Peters.
Yeah, Peterson doing a good one, Jeff. Let's move it on to Saturday, 137-138. The Wake Forest Demon Deacons playing the Syracuse Orange in this one. Looks like over-under opened up at 61-59, depending on where you're shopping at. Sitting around 63 at this point, but opened up Pinnacle -2 in the favor of Syracuse. Chris opened up -2 in the favor of Syracuse. Now you can find some pick'ems, even some -1s towards Wake Forest, -1s on the Greek here. Pretty even split down the middle. I've liked what I've seen from Eric Dungey, quarterback with Syracuse. They're always going to be a tough team. And maybe Wake Forest over the past couple weeks here, taking a little bit of a left hook and a little bit tired, now going to the Dome to play the Syracuse Orange here.
You gotta give it to these two teams, Donnie. What a gutsy bunch of people these two teams are. I mean, Wake Forest. I mean, we haven't given them any love, but they went in and punched App State in the mouth in Appalachian State. They beat they hung tough with Florida State back when Florida State was pretty legitimate. They hung with Clemson, covered that game. Hung with Georgia Tech, beat Louisville, and then they put up 37 and almost 500 yards against Notre Dame. Great job. A quality coaching job from from Dave Clawson here at Wake. Another fantastic job. But Dino Babers, can you get a guts routine in Syracuse, Donnie? Is there a Dungy, Donnie, to you, the toughest kid you've ever seen on this sport in some time? I mean,
Yeah, he's pretty
he's
fun,
a
and
warrior,
he
that
gets in
kid,
your
man.
face too. Like he plays quarterback like a linebacker.
Sure. That's a great way to look at it. They're 6-2 against the spread. They've covered all 4 games in conference. They're at home here. They've actually covered 5 of 6 against Wake. I like Wake, but I really like your point, Donnie, about just maybe a little beat up at this point. Another tough game here. And you look at that bowl stuff, Donnie, another big game for a team that has 4 wins. I mean, you look at the last couple of games in Cuse's schedule, not exactly easy. ACC's never easy to navigate. I think at home here, I'd be interested in backing Syracuse. I really like what they've done this year defensively as well. Been pretty impressive overall. They're usually a team that gets run all over. I would go with the Syracuse Orange here. I think they're the better team at home and get a beat up team here. Give me the Orange.
It should be a decent one to watch. One that I'm pretty interested in here and trying to get some details on. 149, 150. It's going to be Middle Tennessee State University traveling to Charlotte to play the 49ers. Line opened up at 14, but now we're seeing some interesting movement backwards. Chris now posting a minus 12.5 bet online, sitting at a minus 13. Low over-under, sitting at 46. The key ingredient in this game is Will Hassan Klue playing this football game, watching the Old Dominion game. Did hurt his knee, and for a running quarterback, getting a knee injury where he can't finish the game doesn't bode well for the next week where you're going to play. And obviously Middle Tennessee State getting back Brent Stockstill at quarterback. They do lose James, I believe, for the season, but they still it was the Tylee or James. I think it was Richie James they lost for the season, but they still have Tylee, have some weapons. You got that rusty game out of the way for Stockstill going up against UTEP in almost a practice game. The one thing I look at Charlotte, I don't know where their points come from. I really don't. I mean, they were embarrassing the previous week. They like to run read option. If you can shut down the read option, which Middle Tennessee State, Jeff, does have a decent defense when you look at it overall, getting pressure on the quarterback. Is it a high number for them to go on the road, Middle Tennessee State? Yes. But just watching, I don't know what Charlotte does well. Like maybe Klue breaks out every once in a while with the read option run with LeMay as the running back. But outside of that, Jeff, they have nothing. So now you're going to take him away and bring in this young lefty quarterback to try to run that read option who he's not really a runner. I don't know what you make out of it.
Yeah, from all looks of it, it looks like Kluge's going to play according to the Charlotte Observer, but I'm not sure that it means too much, really. I mean,
Mm-mm.
you look at all year, Donnie. I mean, Charlotte's been largely lost at the wheel offensively. They're 127th in scoring offense. The only teams that are worse, Donnie, are Kent and UTEP, who Middle Tennessee dispatched last week. In that game against UTEP, Donnie, Middle Tennessee give up 137 total yards. They've done a remarkable job defensively. Scott Schaefer has come in and really improved this team defensively. They were a bit of a sieve last year at times. I got to tell you, I think Stockstill being back clearly is huge. I mean, they really needed some kind of shot in the arm, this team. They were just kind of, just lost at the quarterback position. Getting him back, he makes just everyone around him better. So, is Richie James being out big? Yeah, but they still have playmakers that really just needed. Donnie, it's like when you're younger, and I don't know if you remember this, but like when your dad like maybe goes to work like for a couple days, you might go. My dad was a builder, and he would go away for a couple days, and it was great. My mom would cook and everything. It was awesome, but I missed my dad. I missed him like throwing the baseball to me and stuff. Sometimes you just miss that quarterback, Donnie. You miss my quarterback. It's like your dad. He's like your dad almost. I miss. I think they missed Brent Stockstill a lot, and I got to tell you, I think this is a get right game for them. I know last week they won big. I don't really foresee a difference here either. I think Charlotte and UTEP are very similar football teams. I don't know that Klug is completely healthy here. And even if he is, I don't think he's very good personally. I think they win, kind of similar to what they did last week. I think pitching a shutout might be in their cards, Donnie. I think they'll try to do it Saturday. I would lay the pretty mediocre 12.5. I don't hate that number.
Yeah, let's take a look at the Old Dominion game last week. And I know it's a week-to-week thing, but sometimes like to match up talent with like talent, all right? So if we look at the Charlotte perspective going against Old Dominion's defense, 5 games ago versus Florida Atlantic, Old Dominion gave up 58 points. 4 games ago versus Marshall scored 35 points on them. Go to Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky scored 35 on them. Let's go down to North Texas. who scored 45 on them. And then you get down and you say Charlotte, Jeff, couldn't even score on them. Now, when you say, oh, man, must have been like they probably had like so many turnovers. Jeff, they didn't cross the third. They didn't even get a red zone possession in that football game, Charlotte. That's with Hassan Klua healthy for 3.5 quarters in that ball game, Jeff. They were lucky when they even got plus yardage. They didn't even have a red zone shot. Not like, they probably just would score from the 40-yard line out. Jeff, they couldn't move the football against a Charlotte team that suspended its number one tackler for the football game. They were embarrassing. Middle Tennessee State, a better defense than ODU overall and a better offense. Hey, good luck. If you were on Charlotte last week, you won. I mean, how many times can you say that where you were getting 7 or 7.5 points where your team didn't even get in the red zone or score a single point and you covered? Good luck if you're going to lean on that one again this week, Jeff.
Just wanted to also point out, I mean, this is the kind of team that I remember when Drew Martin and I were talking about Conference USA. I mean, we were skeptical to think that, Charlotte could win a game this year. And Donnie, one of their big problems on defense is they had a kid last year named Larry Ojenubi. I mean, he was a really good pass rusher. He's actually in the NFL now. Gets starting minutes with the Cleveland Browns, I believe. They're one of the worst teams in the country, Donnie, pressuring the quarterback. If you let Stockstill just stand back there and pick you apart, it's going to be a long day. I mean, this is also a team in North Carolina A&T that lost to North Carolina A&T, Donnie. I mean, the Aggies are a Division II program that's pretty good, but I mean, they lost outright to this team. Charlotte sucks. I think Middle Tennessee rolls.
Yeah, no, it all comes down to, and again, I like getting that rusty game out of the way. Now you're back in the fold. You're not worrying, can I start during the week? What happens if I take that first hit out there? I don't want to get hit in this game. Stockstill took a couple hits in that game, made a couple bad throws, got an interception in the end zone where he threw in the triple coverage. That happens in your first game back when you're facing those live bullets. Now you can settle in. And again, Jeff, we're not settling in right now going, you know what? That's Alabama over there we're playing. It's Charlotte. You're not going to have to score that many points, and even if you do, it's not like Charlotte's defense is going to get all after you in that football game because they barely could stop ODU. ODU is just not, I don't want to say finessed enough to even get in the end zone at that point. They dominated that football game.
But
just didn't score enough. Yeah.
ODU is shit.
They're bad. ODU is pretty bad, and they lost Cox in that football game. So now they're down Lowry, who's been banged up a couple times this year. And both of the I don't know if you can get a worse quarterback combination than LaRussa and the other young kid that starts. The name slipped my mind, the actual starter.
I'm not a big
they're really bad.
Yeah, I'm not a big under better in any sport, but I'm not sure how I missed that under last week. I mean, those two offenses are brutal.
It was a nice day too, Jeff. Like 65 degrees, really light wind, no rain whatsoever, and it was really bad.
And back and forth.
The only thing worse than the game itself was the ESPN3 broadcast on that. So
I'd have to imagine, Donnie, they punted more than the combined score, I'd imagine, right?
It was yes, you would have to be right because again, Charlotte missed one field goal, but it was from 48 yards. But other than that, they didn't get the red zone, so they were punting the whole damn day.
What a mess, Christ!
No, it was a mess. We'll keep it moving here. 159-160, Jeff. TCU, Oklahoma. We all saw Oklahoma last week play in Bedlam. They couldn't be stopped on offense, but then again, they barely could get a stop on defense. Going up against TCU, maybe TCU will actually bring a little bit of defense in this one. We'll see which teams come to play because obviously Oklahoma getting that letdown, maybe that big build-up, but they have a bigger picture there. They might be able to gain some juice out that game. -7.5, Pinnacle opened up at Chris, opened up at 8. Now sitting it under a touchdown, Jeff. Oklahoma at home, -6.5 here.
Yeah, this is an interesting game, man, isn't it? You have a team finally that Oklahoma that maybe they can make a run. I know they're bad on defense, but they've renewed confidence here, Donnie. I mean, they're only lost at this point. I know they lose to Iowa State, but we've started to realize that Iowa State's pretty good. TCU is kind of an interesting team, though. We know how good Gary Patterson is kind of defensively, and I'm sure he's bound to run out something here, but I feel like he almost showed his hand a little bit against, like the Oklahoma States of the world. And Donnie, you look at against like Oklahoma State and some of the SMUs of the world, they kind of carved TCU up. I mean, they had scored points. I mean, there was no denying that. Oklahoma, I think, you look at one of the big keys to why they gave up so many points last year, or last week was the fact that they now have 3 starters, Donnie, that won't play in this game against TCU. Jordan Parker's out. Will Johnson's out for the first half due to targeting. Uh, they've given up a ton of yards, and I don't know that it'll stop here. TCU is a team that struggled a little bit lately to move the ball, but I I really can't foresee Kenny Hill having problems against Oklahoma. Also, Donnie, last 3 games for Oklahoma, 51 points a game and 673 yards a game per game. Um, I hate over unders in the Big 12, but I'm considering a total play on the over 62 in this game. Little low. I just think that maybe TCU, they showed their hand a little bit. They played defensively pretty well in some of these games, but they still gave up points. I mean, they gave up a lot of points against Oklahoma State, like I said with SMU. I think the book's there to beat them. Oklahoma and Baker Mayfield are the team that can do it. I think the over is worth a look here. I think this is like I don't know, a 41-31, something like that. I kind of like Oklahoma to cover, but I like the over too.
It should be an interesting one. Again, I'm not the biggest Big 12 fan, but anytime Trill Hill gets involved, Jeff, it's going to be a nice epic performance. But you're right, 62.5 looks like a bargain after watching Oklahoma last week. Sometimes you think, oh, Oklahoma could probably hang 60 themselves, but TCU usually comes to play. Garrett Patterson's a really good football coach. You'll have those boys ready. 185, 186, Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Iowa and Wisconsin. We all seen Iowa last week go up against Ohio State and dismantle them. Now another challenger to the throne. Wisconsin looking to run the table here, possibly get into the playoff. They're going to open up as a minus 13 favorite at Pinnacle, now sitting at 12.5. Chris actually down to 11.5, along with Sportsbook.com. What are we looking at from this game, Jeff?
Yeah, this is just kind of an interesting game just because of, I mentioned I'm a big fan of like the defensive type games, the really good defenses, the smart match mount defenses. You're going to get that one here. You look at this total, Donnie, it's 46. I was coming off a huge win. You'd have to imagine I got to go on the road. I don't think it'll be a letdown game per se, but it is two tough, really tough teams. Right, kind of in sequential order. Last 2 games down between these two teams, 17-9 and 10-6. Now I know that doesn't matter. This is a different game, but I looked up, kind of the defensive numbers here. Wisconsin's that team. I mean, you talk about an elite rushing defense. They're up there in the top 5. Pass defense is amazing as well, and I think Iowa's a lot uh, elite defense that a lot of people don't talk about. I think Josie Jewell is an elite football player, one of the better linebackers overall in the country. And, you look at the weather conditions, Dottie, this weekend in Madison, 90% chance of precipitation. They're calling for a wintry mix, little rain as well, 13 to 20 mile an hour winds, 30 degrees. It's going to be a really raw, ugly day in Madison. I'm going to keep up with this weather report, but I actually took a shot here with the under 46 already. I've gotten beat up with some of these totals in the Big 10 just from, overtime and stuff like that, but I've largely been on the right side of these games. I'm just getting a little unlucky late with overtimes and stuff, but I've been overall fairly on point with them. So I'm going to go under 46 here. I think weather plays a big part in this game. And Wisconsin, they're kind of one of those teams where they're going to get up in this game, really play great defense. It's going to be tough, I think, for Iowa to kind of score against them, to be brutally honest.
No, it should be an interesting game there. Just to give you a quick update on the MACtion games tonight. BetOnline now showing a -9, -112 in the favor of Miami of Ohio, and Buffalo at BetOnline showing a -7. Over/under at BetOnline 53.5, and Bowling Green game 60.5. So some interesting line movements there, Jeff. Why don't we take a look at do a quick pick at the NFL card coming up this week? Let's just take a look at Thursday Night Football. I haven't capped this game at all. I'm usually not a big, premium player on Thursday nights because a little bit too many things come into play. Seattle and Arizona, Wilson and Stanton. I bet Arizona last week versus the San Francisco 49ers. They were able to win 20-10. I was still sweating that damn game right up to the final bell. It seemed like it took 5 hours to play and should not have been that hard. But it all boils down to, Jeff, Seattle coming in a little bit banged up in this football game, but Stanton's not a very good quarterback. One of those guys that every time he drops back to pass, you just pray he doesn't throw an interception, which usually isn't a very good recipe to go up against the Seattle Seahawks. I doubt Earl Thomas is going to play in this football game. Probably going to hold him out, give him the extended layoff You don't want to mess with that hamstring, how important he is for that football team. But Russell Wilson just makes plays, and I think he's going to make enough plays to beat Arizona in this game. Line's not too bad. What are we looking at? 6-5 at CG Technologies, 5.5 at Bet Online. Over under pretty low, 41.5, about expected. But we all know, Jeff, when you see, what do I like to say? It's 41.5 in the NFL. It's just not. You have to get extremely lucky to hit a 41 under 41.5 in the NFL. They're all designed to go over with all the flags that they have. Even though you watch this, hey, Donnie, look at the Washington game. That one didn't go over. It doesn't matter. They're just not meant to be. You have to get lucky to hit these unders. I haven't capped this game all thoroughly there, but it'd be hard for me to take Arizona here, Jeff.
Yeah, especially with Stanton in their quarterback. I mean, Christ, who wants to back him? I mean, luckily you played the San Francisco 49ers last week and you got a win, but I mean, this is a different animal. I found it interesting, Donnie, that all I heard last week was Seahawks got Dwayne Brown. Their offensive line is fixed. Yeah, I don't know if anyone knows this, but he plays only on the left side. He doesn't play on the right side. He doesn't play in the middle. He plays on the left side. Now, I know that's the blind spot. I'm aware of that. However, what about the right side of the offensive line, Donnie? 1 out of 5. It's not very good. What is that? Very low percentage. You still have to have a really good overall offensive line. And I know Russell Wilson is a guy that can escape pressure, but I just found it interesting that they got Dwayne Brown, so immediately they're going to win a ton of football games. And I thought it was great. All I heard last week about the Seahawks were they're the only team we don't want to see if we're an NFL team and they go out and lose at home to Washington. Fantastic stuff. But I think they bounce back. I don't like Arizona. How many times have we talked about them this year, Donnie? Arizona's a fucking joke. Give me Seattle. Like you, I haven't capped the game either. Just looking at it, I just don't think Arizona is very good. They will lean on Adrian Peterson, though. He was pretty good last week. He was virtually their whole offense. If they can kind of bottle him up, it could be a long day for Drew Stanton.
Yeah, there are some interesting games on Sunday, and I know a lot of people are going to say, well, hey, Cleveland had the time off, and Detroit played Monday night, and real sharp. We're going to get on Cleveland at minus 12.5. Now it looks like they got maybe Corey Coleman coming back, and they got the weed head back also. Like he's supposed to actually help that football team out, which I doubt he does. That should be an interesting one. The one game that's really peaking, and forget, we all can talk Dallas at Atlanta. That's going to be a really good football game. There's a lot of angles to go over. I'm really involved in that game, breaking it down to see how I can find some edges, which I think I'm finding some. But the one, Jeff, game I do want to talk about, which is interesting because it's an awful game on the board, but I think it could have some value here, and that's 271-272. That's the New York Football Giants going out to play the San Francisco 49ers in this one. Now, I'm bringing this game up, Jeff. Which way do you think I might be leaning in this game?
I would guess you're probably going to say you like the Giants.
Yeah, I like the Giants in this spot. Mm-hmm.
Well, before we get into this game,
go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I just wanted to mention
yeah.
Josh Gordon real quick. That's all.
Yep. No, go ahead. Mention him. We'll get to this next game.
You look at, if you're a young kid out there, he should be a poster boy for why you don't want to get in to whatever you think is cool or funny, or you want to go play sports, but you want to take Xanax, you want to smoke weed. Listen, I don't think smoking weed's that big a deal. I really don't. But when you become a serial user of it and you're playing the NFL, it's not something you can do. I think he's an incredible talent. I really believe that. I think he's a kid that could have been an elite receiver in this league. Problem is, not only has he been addicted to narcotics, but he's also had to play for the Browns. He played for Art Briles, for God's sakes. Then he had to go to Utah. He's just been a total mess his whole career. And you almost look at someone like him and you feel bad. I mean, he's obviously has a drug problem. He has a substance problem. And it goes back to when he was, a middle schooler, for God's sakes, from what I've read. I mean, it's a shame. I mean, how many different chances has this guy gotten and he's failed? It's a shame. And if you're a young person out there, he should be the poster child of everything you need to stay away from, because he's quite the talent. And we see so many of these kids. I hope for once, for God's sakes, that he comes back, takes it seriously, and is some kind of factor. Maybe gets another chance at life. But how many chances can he get, Donnie, right?
No, yeah, he's out of chance. My favorite thing, I wish I could go back on those like frozen takes that you have on Twitter, where how many times the Cleveland Browns said they're done with him, they're going to cut ties, and yet he's still back on that football team. So that
Yeah.
tells you a little bit about Cleveland's front office. But getting back to this giant game here, Jeff, I watch, I bet, one of my better plays on Sunday that I did win with was the Los Angeles Rams going in, absolutely dismantling the New York Giants. Just a bad matchup for them going on. And have the New York Giants quit? You might be able to say they have. I mean, they had a nice game versus Denver a couple weeks back.
I
Fought
would.
Seattle hard, just couldn't hang on there. And the Rams. But the word I get into here is there's a lot of injuries that are coming back if you're taking a look at. And by the way, Jeff, Thomas Woodson is out tonight for Akron. There you go. Boom. How about that?
Wow.
Late 5 minutes before
That sucks.
kickoff, that Woodson is out, which, hold on. Yeah, look at it. Look at the line race already. It's already gone. Chris has it at 10. But, yeah, look, that's looking good, Jeff. A couple shows that I gave out Miami on. So, hey, how about that? Maybe I saw something.
Now, let's watch
Jeff,
everyone
we're
run.
not even going to break down the Giant game. We'll save that. Let's just hit this
Fuck
real
the
quick
MAC.
before we get out of here. This is the MAC. Folks,
It is.
this is the MAC
Donnie,
in football, and this is the MAC in college basketball right here.
Donnie, let me ask you a
factor
question.
in,
I want to
you
ask you.
bet all game. Hold on, Jeff. You back up and you look at these and you tap all game long, and nobody's heard a word, and bang, the most important player for your football team is not going to play tonight. Go ahead, Jeff.
You know what's amazing, Donnie? We've went through the MAC basketball. We did a MAC basketball video. What was my betting angle in this conference? What did I tell you? Do you remember?
Surf it. Look for the nonsense. Look for the suspensions that come out of nowhere.
Or don't bet it at all because it's a shit show half the time. You never know who's playing. They just throw out these random things. I told you last year, Donnie, I've never pulled a bet. I barely ever do that. I remember one game last year though, I did do it in, and it was in the fucking MAC. It's a brutal conference. They always do this stuff. They always throw in these little wrinkles. These random injuries come up like right before the game. But I want to take a look here because I know Nick Johns is over there at Akron, former Virginia Cavalier. I guess it'll be Cato Nelson tonight. Which, I mean, what a shot in the arm here if you're Miami. I mean, this gives you a ton. But I got to tell you, I mean, I guess you just hand the ball off. I think people do have definitely overreact with a lot of this stuff. But yeah, after this news, I wouldn't be as interested in Akron. I definitely would just side with. I would go with the play on Buffalo, and I got to be real, Donnie. I like the Jazz in the NBA at -6.
No, it should be interesting there. But yeah, but that's a shot in the arm. I mean, maybe people knew, Jeff. Maybe we see like, damn, Miami's up to 9.5. Maybe somebody was leaking that out to some runners in Las Vegas, and they were pounding Miami of Ohio at that point. But I do feel bad for the people that put their wagers in. And again, a lot of services run things. Say, hey, look, I got this game nailed, and you give it out at 2, 3, 4, or even 5 o'clock, and 5 minutes before Jeff. 5 minutes before kickoff, they warmed up an hour ago out on the field. Don't be surprised if Woodson was out there in full gear running around and comes out of the tunnel with nothing on saying, yeah, he's just going to be suspended tonight or he doesn't feel right about playing tonight. It's amazing to me with all the technology we have, all the eyes on these programs, that they can still keep stuff like that in-house. It just amazes me. It really does.
I agree with you 100%.
All right, yeah, so that'll be the closing line for tonight, Jeff. Leaning on something here. You know what? Going back and forth here, we'll leave. It's not fair to give out the Miami of Ohio game now that obviously it's up to 10 as opposed to what it was at 8.5 that I was leaning towards. So I'm not going to say, hey, man, I was all over Miami. And that's what it is. Forget about that. That line's done and gone, and the cap is over. In the Bowling Green Buffalo game, I'm actually going to lean in this game, Jeff, taking a look at the over 60.5. I know Buffalo is going to be a little bit more methodical, but whenever you play Bowling Green, Jeff, they're going to force more possessions in this football game. They can air it out. They have a good quarterback. They have 2 good running backs. I know their line is a little bit troublesome here, but they're going to push the pace here, which is going to allow Buffalo to get into that mid to high 30s range and really try to set the pace. I'm going to go with the over 60.5. I'll even take the worst number. You can get 60 across the board. I'll take 60.5 as my closing line play of the night, Jeff. What do you want to use as your play of the day before we get out of here?
I'm gonna go with. I'll go 2. I'll go Buffalo minus. What do we got? 8, 7.5. I'll go 8, whatever it is, doesn't matter. And I'll go Jazz -6. I also want to remind everyone, Donnie, get a listen tomorrow. Roundtable. We're back. Me, Ian, you, and Drew Martin. A lot going on. Going to be a fun week here at SBR with all the stuff going on. So yeah, I'll go with those 2 tonight, Donnie.
Sounds good. That'll be the closing line for November 7th, 2017. I was your host tonight, Donnie Rightside, as usual. My partner in crime that joins me every single Tuesday, Jeff Nadu, the big man on campus. Give him a follow on Twitter at Jeff Nadu. Also catch him around the channels. You see him with me each and every day on the right side of campus, on the roundtable, soccer shows, the closing line with Pete on Saturdays, getting you ramped up and ready for college football. Also, check a look at all these college basketball videos that me and the big man are putting out as conference previews. Check out SBRodds.com, free odds service. Get that late line movement there, all free of charge at SBRodds.com. Give us a follow on Twitter at SBR Sports Picks, and also hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. Get the notifications every single time we go live. Join us in the live chat box. We'll have a lot of fun here for us from all of us at sportsbookreview.com. Good luck on your wagers tonight. We hope we helped you beat the closing line. Take care, fellas.
Free Meek Mill.
Yeah. All right, man. Good show. Good show.